Hello, everyone. Welcome to our very first Empower Pro Governance demo session. Today, we will explore the latest in application lifecycle management, service accounts, audit log enhancements, and more. My name is Ventisław Tasev. I'm a group product manager in Quickbase, and I've been overseeing governance in Quickbase for the last. I'm super excited to kick off this meeting. Together with my colleagues Raina and Drew, and our special guest speaker, Craig from JWatch, we will share the latest governance updates with the goal to help you unlock the full potential of your Quickbase platform. I'm glad to see so many people already online. You may have already noticed the chat feature on the right-hand side of your screen, so I really want to encourage you to share your impressions and ask questions. There will be dedicated Q&A at the end of the session, so please submit your questions up front by clicking on the Q&A tab on the right side of your screen. So what are you going to learn from today's session? We will talk about governance enhancements that will help you establish a holistic governance framework for your realms. Raina Stoicheva will talk about the latest ALM developments, and then our guest speaker, Craig, will share their experience with the Solution Lifecycle Manager app. And at the end of the session, our principal engineer, Drew Jitu, will demonstrate how Quickbase can be managed with GitHub. Given our plan for today, we hope you leave our session with these three takeaways. So first, we'd expect you to feel more comfortable with our commitment to continue investing in application lifecycle management. Yes, it has been a long journey, it takes time, and we still believe it is the right thing to invest into. We'll also show you how you can do app lifecycle management with Quickbase according to the highest industry standards. And at the same time, we want to demonstrate that we're elevating governance experience across the entire platform. And before we dive in, we need the usual safe harbor slide. As we will talk about features coming in the future, you should keep in mind that dates, scope, and final product may always change. Or worst case, we may actually never release it, although I'm confident this is not going to be the case for the capabilities you will see today. So my goal for my part of the session is to provide you with a brief overview of what else beyond application lifecycle management has happened recently in governance. Yes, it's true that during the last 2+ years, we were predominantly focused on ALM. However, as usual, we are actively listening to your feedback and your needs. That's why, over the course of 2024, we released some truly exciting improvements and new features in governance. I will start with my favorite one. Our new service accounts have been released and made available to all customers on all plans since September. No more password sharing. No more concerns. What would happen if someone leaves your organization or is absent for a longer period? Your business continuity of mission critical apps and workflows is now guaranteed. With service accounts, builders can now collaborate on building, maintaining, and evolving not only applications, but also pipelines. In reality, service accounts can be leveraged even for API calls that work with user tokens. Quickbase service accounts have the same capabilities as the standard user accounts. There are only two differences. They can be accessed by multiple users from their user menu. Of course, users must be given access to that particular service account. And second, the only way to sign in directly to the service account is by using SAML. So now in a short demo, let me demonstrate you the power and the beauty of the service account. As you can see, in this specific example, as I have already pre-provisioned a service account and assigned Empower User 1 and Empower User 2 with access to it. Now, if we switch to the first user, you see that I already have the ability to switch the service account from my user menu. At the same time, I don't have a single app. I don't have access to pipelines, Exchange, or solutions. Same for the second user. I have the ability to switch to the service account, but no apps, don't even have access to pipelines, exchange, or solutions. So now let's switch to the service account. So just for a few seconds, all of a sudden, I already have access to all the apps this service account has access to. At the same time, I see pipelines, I see exchange, I see solutions. And if I go to pipelines, I should be able to see all the pipelines that specific service account owns, and respectively be able to make changes to it. In our example, it's just one very, very simple pipeline. But as you can see, I can open that pipeline and can make edits and changes to the structure of the pipeline. So now let's do the same with the other user. Again, from the user menu, we switch to the service account. I see that same application. I again see pipelines, exchange, and solutions. And if I go to pipelines, I should be able to see that same pipeline. Yes, it's the same pipeline. And simultaneously with the other user, I can open and make changes and edits to that pipeline. So now let's go back to the original user. Currently, we can do this from the context of pipelines. So that's why we need to go back to my apps page in order to switch back to the original users. But you can expect this improvement pretty soon also in pipelines. So that's it. And let me summarize. It's really very simple and intuitive. But with service accounts, they can help you with sharing ownership of apps and pipelines to collaborate on making changes. We strongly encourage all critical apps and pipelines for your organization to be managed by using a service account. This would also help with ownership transfer when someone leaves a company or is absent. And of course, will help ensure your business continuity. And last but not least, service accounts make easier the collaboration on realm level access and permission management. As an example, you won't anymore need a support case if you want another person to have realm admin privileges. I'm sure many of you are now asking the logical question. Okay, how do you ensure traceability and auditability of the actions that the different folks with access to a particular service accounts did? Even yesterday, I saw a similar entry in our feedback platform. Well, with our thoughtful implementation approach, we ensured full visibility to eliminate any similar concerns. And this is the perfect segue to the other topic I wanted to touch upon. All the audit log enhancements we introduced over the last few months. In parallel with service accounts implementation, we've made a series of improvements to our audit trail. I'll start with the most notable, in my opinion, that not only helps connecting the dots for service accounts, and I'll shortly explain how exactly this works, but also improves the overall traceability in our audit trail. This is the session info. The session info is a new column in our audit log containing either a numeric session ID associated with a browsing session on a particular device, which resets when the session expires, or depending on the type of the event, it may contain a short snippet of the user token for an API call. So this, in combination with one of the new events we generate when a user switches to a service account, will provide you full traceability of what all users with access to particular service accounts are doing at any point in time. The new event for switching to a service account has the session ID. And with that in hand, you can link to a specific user all the events generated by a service account. But that's not all. We also added a few other events, helping to identify when a builder has visited certain key application configuration pages, like the app and table setting pages, the field list page, and form and field properties pages. We also heard your feedback in the past, you are blind for important admin changes, both on app level and admin console level. So now a new event will be generated when an app admin hits save on the app branding or app properties pages, or when a realm admin selects save on the realm branding or realm policies pages. Plus, when a realm or account admin changes a user setting on the users page in the admin console. To further ease the investigation process, we also added hyperlinks to almost all audit events. These hyperlinks will lead to the respective object within a click of a button. Whether it's a field, a report, or an app, the specific resource can be accessed immediately as soon as the realm admin has access to it. The hyperlinks are also available in our Audit Log API. And the cherry on the cake, I mentioned previously that we now have a new event tracking user changes from the admin console. Since October's release, you can also see exactly what changes have been made, similar to the Field Data Changes view we've been providing for years. Once you click View Details, a popover will summarize all the changes made for a particular user. You can expect in future to see that same pattern also for other change events. So that's all for audit. As you can see, a great collection of fairly small improvements that actually altogether make a huge difference and provide a much better visibility and traceability. The last thing that I want to call out, something that you may also have heard in yesterday's keynote session, is the investment we've made to another existing capability, the admin console connected tables, known also as Quickbase Sync. Those of you who are realm admins are probably also aware that they can connect to another special type of connected tables called admin console connected tables. So these admin tables have always been an instrumental tool for admins, especially when you start to scale your Quickbase practice. These tables are more than just a feature. They enable streamlined data governance and management. Over the last 1 year, we've significantly expanded the scope of the capability, starting from providing additional data points to the 3 original tables, users, apps, and access. And then sequentially, we provided 3 net new tables, user tokens, pipelines, and connected tables. But in the end, this is just data. And as usual, with plenty of data, everyone can get lost. So as a realm admins, you may wonder how to organize this data, how to get proper insights and derive the right conclusions from it. Well, we want to help with that as well. You may have heard us previously talking about the concept of running Quickbase on Quickbase. It's simply using Quickbase apps to do things that we do not provide natively as capabilities. And that approach actually demonstrates pretty well the power and the flexibility of our product. So we've designed a set of 3 interconnected apps to give you a better visibility into how your account is being used. The first one is the Admin Console Sync Hub. It's a centralized location for all admin console connected tables and acts as a data repository. This is where you actually connect to the admin tables. The second one is the Realm Insights app. This is where the Realm admin will slice and dice the Realm data to get a holistic understanding of the Realm and its overall health. And the third one, the so-called Realm Logger, this app uses pipelines to serve as a very advanced audit log. It can track multiple attributes and events with flexibility and granularity based on your specific needs. Since these are Quickbase apps, they are very powerful, but mostly flexible tools that you can use to design whatever governance workflows you need. Imagine, for example, getting an email notification when a new pipeline is added to the realm, or when users with external email domains are provided with access to any of your critical applications. You can build a dashboard with all your custom admin reports in one place to monitor the health of the entire realm. The 3 apps are already available in Exchange, so go and download on your own. We have provided very detailed instructions with the goal to enable you to self-serve. However, if you still need help with the installation, please get in touch with us. So with that, I'm going now to hand it over to Raina, and she will guide us through the latest and greatest in application lifecycle management. Over to you, Raina.
Thank you, Venci. Just sharing my screen, and we can start. Hello, everybody. My name is Raina. I'm a product manager here in Quickbase, and I am mostly working on application lifecycle management. So the rest of this session we're going to dedicate to ALM, as it is a big priority for Quickbase overall. First, we're going to do a short recap of the ALM features we recently released. Just this year, we did this very huge release with some absolutely life-changing for Quickbase users features. First of all, we have now the QBL. QBL, or Quickbase language, is a domain-specific language that describes Quickbase schema in a text format. So basically, all the applications you're building, the tables in there, the configurations for the table, the app management settings, the fields, and the types of the fields, and everything about the fields, and reports, and all that is considered schema. And now QBL allows you to see that schema and kind of read the blueprint of that schema in this text format. And really, the way to interact with QBL is through solution APIs, the other part of the big release we did. Solution APIs do three main things. First of all, you can export QBL for a given Quickbase solutions. Basically, you have a solution, you run an export, you get as a result the QBL definition for that solution. Second, we have the Create API. Create allows you, if you already have a QBL definition, like the one we just exported theoretically, you can run a create, and this will create a brand new solution with the same schema definition that we provided in the QBL. So said simply, this allows you to make copies of solutions by schema only without transferring any of the data in those copies. And last but not least, we have the update API. That's really the big game changer here. So let's say you've used the export and create to already create a copy of a given solution. Now you have the original and the copy. You can assign one of the two to be your production environment and the other to be your development environment. You can start going in the UI and start making changes. Let's say we're creating a brand new field in the development environment. You would go in the UI, work as you would usually do. But then when you decide you want this new field to end up in your production environment, you can use the export to get the QBL from development and run an update to apply those changes to the production environment. This really gives you the power to do instant deployments of changes across different environments. And this is an extremely powerful tool that can be used in several different ways. And that's what we're going to kind of talk about. But first, we just want to cover that if you've been keeping up with ALM, you probably know that we are taking a staged approach to releasing QBL. Basically, not the entire platform is available yet, so you can always export and create an update, but those will be limited to the scope of schema we support today. Right now, we support app settings, tables, rows permissions, all field types, and all report and chart types. Currently, we're working on out forms. So you will not see old forms or new forms in the export for QBL, but we plan to release old form support by the end of the year. And also, we keep on working on all the other schema in Quickbase, like new forms and pipelines and connected tables and dashboards and everything else that you're building on the platform. And now let's move on to the more exciting part, which is how to use this. This is a framework, and the idea is really to allow you the flexibility to find the best solution for your organization and for your team. We're going to discuss two different ways to do that that we can suggest, but let's start with one very exciting one. This is the Solution Lifecycle Manager app, or SLM app, as we're going to refer to it, which is an application that our solution architects built over the last couple of months. They already tested it with several customers in a pilot program. We are going to hear from one of those customers in just a minute. And what this application does is that if you get the application, you can provide a solution that you want to do application lifecycle management for, and the application can suggest different setups for you. Setups could be, for example, dev, test, and prod environments with approvals required to make deployments between them. Or they can be dev, test, prod without approvals. Or it could be just dev and a prod. Basically, there are several different setups you can choose from, depending on what's really working best for your organization. And if you select a setup, the application is going to automatically create the different environments for you and create pathways for development. So this way you can go to your development environment, start working your changes in there just like you normally would. But when you want to deploy those changes to production, you can go to the SOM app. Your builders can request deployments. You could approve them, and the deployment is going to instantly get moved to the next environment. This gives you the opportunity to really build and deploy continuously, and to make sure that everything is always built in isolation and you're never really messing up anything on production. There are a ton of awesome features in the app, so we invite you to explore it. The application is currently available on Exchange, so you can go there, download it, you can follow the instructions to set everything up, you can get some help from your customer success manager, and feel free to give us your feedback. Now, speaking of feedback, we have invited one of the customers from our pilot program I mentioned, Craig McElroy, to share with all of you what was his experience with this application. Hello, Craig, and thank you for joining today.
Absolutely.
So let's start by just you introducing yourself to our audience. What's your role? What is your company doing? And how are you using Quickbase?
Sure. My name is Craig McElroy. I am the VP of Business Analytics at JLodge, a part of Cognosante. JLodge specializes in quality monitoring. So, this call may be monitored for quality assurance purposes. The company has been using Quickbase for over 15 years. We use Quickbase primarily to create online quality forms to measure company interactions with customers and generate reporting for clients to access online. The availability of live data to our clients provides transparency and creates confidence in the quality program. Also, the flexibility of Quickbase enables us to meet client expectations with speed and efficiency. In my time at JLodge, I have personally created over 100 applications and managed access for thousands of users.
Awesome. Thank you, Craig. Now let's talk about ALM. How did you get interested in that application? What is ALM for your organization and your team?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, lifecycle management has been a struggle for our department. We are often pressed to find time to complete all client and internal requests for application development and maintenance. Documentation and governance tend to take a back seat to those types of requests. We do what we can in the time we have. Lifecycle management is typically maintained through documentation, like with change management logs and such, of applications, and in some cases by creating mirror applications, duplicates of the original application, where we can make changes separately. Making changes in the mirror first is certainly safer than developing in a live application, but it doubles development time. You have to develop in the mirror application first and then redo it again in the production application. And documentation is not sufficient for our governance expectations. I was introduced to the SLM application on an Empower session earlier this year. It proposes a solution that meets our needs for governance without creating extra work. The SLM app is ideal for maintaining our ALM process at JLodge.
That sounds great. Can you share with you when you started using the application and testing it, what was your experience? What did you like about it?
Yeah, we have started testing the use of the SLM application with internal applications to ensure it does all that it needs. Currently, I am the only administrator working with the SLM application as we increase our awareness of how it is used. We are planning on implementing SLM for all active applications, both internal and external, in the future.
That's great. Oh, last question, Craig. What are you most excited about in Quickbase ALM?
I'm really looking forward to saved time and ease of mind. There are some features that are in development that we will need before full implementation, but once that is available, ALM will be managed with simplicity. We will have development completed in a safe and secure environment. All changes will be passed to another application with the press of a button. Approvals can be posted to confirm accuracy of changes. Then changes are posted to production with another press of a button. Easy. Plus, the application will maintain a record of changes for future reference, and that gives us ease of mind.
That's so awesome. Ease of mind should become the logo of ALM. Thank you, Craig. Everybody, if you have any questions for Craig, you can ask them in the Q&A section, and Craig is going to stay on the line to talk through your questions at the end of the session. Next up, we want to keep talking about the ALM, but in a slightly different way. So we saw the SLM app and how it can help by being user-friendly and predefined flows. But we want to show you also a different way, very powerful way that's not for everybody. We want to show a GitHub integration with QBL and solution APIs. This really showcases how you can use source controls tools to achieve similar goals, but with higher degree of visibility and control. And this demo is going to be very interesting for those of you that need to be SOX compliant, for those of you that already have a GitHub or any other source control tool in your organization, for those, many of you that I've talked to personally that find it very important to have a trace of every change that was made on a production solution and who made it and when he made it. So I know that's an important part. And last but not least, we do know that for many of you, it's important to have multiple features developed, sometimes in parallel and sometimes in isolation. So if you find yourself in any of those things, I think you're going to find that next part very interesting. Without further ado, I'll just hand it over to Drew. Drew is one of the big brains behind QBL and solution APIs, and he has huge experience in the software development world. So he's going to share best practices on how you can use source control to manage Quickbase.
Great. Thank you, Raina. Thank you for the introduction. Hi, everyone. So my name is Drew. I'm a principal software engineer here at Quickbase, and I've been working on the QBL project from the very beginning. It's been a huge group effort, but that's not what I'm here to talk about. I'm here to show you sort of what you can do with this now. So let me share my screen real quick. All right. So let me talk a little bit about the problem I'm going to sort of be showing you the solution to, right? So we have a lot of problems. SDLC, it brings a lot of value to us. And one of the things we want to do is we want to protect our production environment, right? Traditionally, we do that by having a separate test environment, having separate dev environments. But we also might want to be able to scale out across multiple different members of a team or all collaborating on a single Quickbase application or solution. Or maybe we have a lot of different features that we're building in parallel that all need to be kept separate from each other. How do we do that? There's a concept called ephemeral dev environments that I'll go into a little bit in a second. The other thing we want to be able to do is sort of understand our changes, visualize them easily, right? And also not just understand any individual change, but understand the changes over time that have been taking place in our application and our solution. So to solve these problems, what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you a integration between Quickbase and traditional source control. And I'm going to walk you through a sample change through the entire SDLC process, through dev, through test, and onto prod. We're going to do that with an ephemeral dev environment. And what that means is it's going to be a dev environment that's created just for this feature and is designed to be deleted after we're done development. We're going to deploy it to a UAT environment. And then we will tag that change with a Git tag as ready for release and deploy that. So the technologies I'm using for this specific demo are, of course, Quickbase, the solution APIs, and QBL. And then we're going to be using github.com and GitHub Actions. Now, none of what I'm showing you requires GitHub, right? You could use any other source control. You could use any other sort of CI/CD or integration tool, Jenkins, Octopus Deploy. All of these are viable alternatives, but this one is using GitHub and GitHub Actions. All right, and without further ado, I'm going to show you a live demo. All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come here and take a look at this SDLC demo. All right, this repository has a couple different things. It contains all of the GitHub actions that are going to be powering this, a couple of GitHub workflows that are powering this. And then if we come into the QBL here, it also contains a solution YAML file that has the QBL template belonging to the solution that we're going to be showing off here. Right? I won't scroll through all of this, but what we'll do is I'll pop over to the solution hub for my demo realm here. Refresh that real quick. We can see we have a production solution and a UAT solution. All right, and I'm going to open these up and show them off real quick. We're going to come over here to the examples table of the production environment, and we're going to see it has 14 fields. All right, and then we're going to go and take a look at the UAT as well, and we're going to see the same. We're going to see 14 fields. I just want to show this off quick to make sure that there's no smoke and mirrors going on here. All right, so we want to build a feature, right? How do we do that? First, we need to have a development environment, all right? In traditional source control, we would start from by creating a branch off of master in our repository. So right now we have this one branch, we have this master branch, and we want to have a feature branch. But we also want to have a solution where we can be making these changes. So here under the Actions tab, there's this Create Workspace Workflow. We're going to run that, and we're going to branch off of master, and we're going to give this solution an alias. We're going to call it demo field. We're going to run it. So what's happening here is that this is triggering a GitHub action, and this is run by GitHub. It's part of their hosted solution. And it is going to check out the QBL in the master branch, right? And then it's going to use that QBL's input to a solution create API call in my realm. We'll give that a second. All right, you can see it's all done. All right, but what it's also done is it's created a branch. All right, so now instead of one branch, we have two branches. We have this workspace demo field, right? And you can see here it has perfect parity with the master branch, but that's going to change in a second. And then we come over to our hub, we refresh it, we have a brand new solution. All right, we have this solution for demo field. So this is our ephemeral dev environment. It was created just for this feature change, and we're going to delete it when we're done. All right, so first things first, I need to make sure I have builder permissions in my brand new dev environment. And then I'm going to go and very quickly create a field because watching me change schema is definitely not the most interesting part of this. All right. So we're just going to add a quick text field, and let's call it the awesome field. All right. So our awesome field now exists. It didn't exist before. And more importantly, we now have 15 fields in this table. All right. So let's pretend that was the entire feature we needed to build, but we need to get this change out of our Quickbase application and into source control, right? We still have a branch with no changes in it. So in order to accomplish that, we're going to run this export workspace workflow, all right? And we're going to run it off of our branch, workspace demo field branch. So when we run this workflow, what it's going to do is it's going to it knows that the alias is demo field, right? And it is going to call the export API on the solution. It's going to take the QBL that is returned that has our new field, and it's going to check it into the branch. And it's going to do that for us. So now that's running, should be done by now. We're going to come back to our branch, and it's got a commit, all right? It's one commit ahead. And if we come and take a look at that commit, we're going to see our new field, all right? So our awesome field has been created. It's a text field, and it's now checked into our branch. But we want to get that into master. So we're going to create a pull request. All right, usually it's a good idea to have some good, helpful descriptions here, but I'm not going to be doing that live. We're going to create the pull request, and now we're going to, talk about why we have pull requests. So with software engineering, most software projects are subject to SOX compliance, right? And what that means, particularly in terms of software development and this demo, is that any given change needs to be reviewed by another person before it can go to production, who attests that it is the intended and desired change and doesn't have anything malicious, right? Someone needs to review this and make sure that I haven't, like, I don't know, snuck in some JavaScript that's trying to harvest data, right? Something like that. So someone's going to come in, look at this, and be like, yep, nope, this is just someone, Drew just added a field. But there's some other reasons why we might derive value from code reviews and pull requests. Sometimes we can catch bugs, right? So maybe a teammate comes in and is taking a look at this and is like, hey, Drew, that wasn't supposed to be a text field. You must have like fat fingered it, and you were supposed to make a number field there. So I'd be like, all right, that was a bit of a mistake on my end. I go back, I fix it, I export with the correct field type, and everything's good. It didn't even get to UAT, much less production. And then another reason, and this is sort of the least tangible, but I would argue maybe the highest value, is that now my teammate knows what I did, okay? Right, so I don't have to necessarily rely on documentation or a presentation or a demo, right? Through the active code review, my team is gaining awareness of the changes I've made, and I similarly will have awareness of the changes my team is making by reviewing their code. Very useful for just keeping a team cohesive, aligned, and moving together. So normally someone would have to approve this, but for the sake of the demo, I'm going to just merge it in as is. And now our new field has been merged to master. Additionally, our feature branch has been deleted automatically. So how do we get this to UAT, right? Because if we go back to our UAT application, we'll see that we still have the 14 fields. Give that a second. All right, 14. We want that to be 15. We want to change there. So the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the update API that Ryan talked about. All right. There is a deploy UAT workflow here, and we're going to run it off of master. And that's going to be responsible for checking out the QBL from our master branch and using it as input to that update call, right? And the way that's going to work is the solution ID for our UAT environment is stored as a variable in the environment variables for this repository, right? But there's one other thing that we're going to have to do here. I've configured this deployment job to require approval. So I'm just sort of imagining maybe I have a very active project. There's a lot of changes going on. And whoever is responsible for testing on my team wants to be able to rely on the fact that changes aren't being introduced to the UAT environment while they're in the middle of testing something, right? So they're going to come in and be like, yep, I've finished all my in-progress testing, so we can go ahead and deploy this change. So now all those steps I just told you about are happening under the hood. And we're going to give that a second. All right, so it's checking things out. It's making the public API call to my demo realm. And now if we go back, we're going to have 15 fields. Okay, our awesome field has made its way to our UAT environment. Now, if in the act of testing, maybe a bug was found, then we'd sort of create a ticket, go through this entire thing again, but I'm not going to subject you to that. Instead, we're going to talk about how this, in turn, after UAT, makes its way to production. I'll just pull that up real quick. All right, so we got 14 fields in production. So the way we're going to do that here is I'm going to create a release in the repository, and I'm going to tag it. All right. So the way releases and get tags work is it takes the commit that we've made in this repository and it annotates it with the tag, right? And if we look at sort of the history of this repository, you can see we have lots of commits here, right? Every single one of these was a pull request that was created, approved, merged in. If we wanted to, we could go and look at any single past commit in this repository. You can see here I was removing a field. And then this is the commit we just reviewed and made, right? The awesome field. So let's go and create a release. So we're going to come in here to this release tab on GitHub. We're going to draft a new release. And we're going to create a new tag. All right, so we're going to just call this 16. All right, so we're creating the version 16 of this solution. There's this handy little feature on GitHub called Generate Release Notes. It just goes over all the commits that have been added since the last release and tries to summarize them for you, right? And then we're going to publish it. All right, that's it. Now we have release. At any point in time, we can come and look at the QBL as it was at version 16. If any more pull requests and features are merged into master, that's great, they're in master, but that doesn't change the version 16 release. We'll always be able to know exactly how it was at this point in time. But it's still not been deployed to our production solution. To do that, there is a workflow for that. All right, and instead of running it off of a branch, we're going to come in here and we're going to select a tag, and we're going to select our version 16 tag. And then we're going to run that. Similar to the UAT workflow, it also requires approval. So we're going to give it a second. Come in here, and we're going to approve it. Now, your process might not require approvals for UAT deployment or production, and that's fine. This one is sort of an imaginary one, and so it's set up just to illustrate what's possible. All right, our prod deploy has gone off without a hitch, right? It's checked out the QBL as it was at that point in time for that exact commit, regardless of what other pull requests have been merged after it. It's used that QBL as input to the update call against the solution ID that corresponds to the prod solution here. And then we're going to come here, refresh our app, and suspense builds. We have 15 fields. All right, our awesome field has gone from a concept, been created in an ephemeral dev environment, gone to UAT for testing, and gone to production. And it's done that all through a mediated integration of Quickbase and traditional source control, in this case, GitHub. And so this is the power of QBL as a textual representation. Right? There's a lot of tools and infrastructure out there for sort of the more traditional coding aspect of it. And now we can start leveraging that for Quickbase when it makes sense. Right? And that's really the important part there. So this demo is trying to demonstrate a bunch of best practices and learnings from software engineering. And I'm going to sort of go over them for you real quick. Right. So the first one is that changes really should go through an SDLC process. It seems sort of self-evident on the nose, but the most interesting man in the world might have an interesting life, but I don't find it particularly fun to be putting out fires in production. I don't think anyone does, right? It might be interesting, but certainly not fun. And one way you can do that is to have that dev test prod split, right? And to force all changes to go through that environment. And what you can do with QBL and solutions now is you can make sure that no one has builder permissions in the production environment, right? So no one can make changes in that prod environment. They all have to go through QBL, whether it's through a traditional or an integration like I'm showing you here, or the ALM app. This one might have been hard to pick up on, but our pull request was really easy to review because it was really small, right? Now, if you imagine I've been building a more complex feature, making changes for an entire week, it could be thousands of lines of QBL change, that'd be hard to review. But if I had been making frequent exports and therefore frequent commits to the branch, a reviewer could go through and look at those at one by one, right? And instead of trying to understand the entire thing in one go, they can see all the different building blocks and steps and changes that were made as part of the pull request, and it'll be a lot easier to understand, and it'll be a lot quicker to get through. And that's how changes can keep flowing to your prod environment. So really recommend frequent exports, frequent commits. It's also useful if you need to go back and review your own work. Another thing we did is we created a version release in this demo. All right, we took a commit in our master branch and tagged it as this is a release. And that lets us do something that's really powerful. It lets us answer the question, what are the changes in this release? And then it also lets us answer the question, what are the changes between this release and the previous one, or the differences between the prod release and UAT? Being able to answer those questions is only really possible when you have a labeling system or some versioning strategy to sort of lock down what is in a release. You can do that with Git tags. You can do that with release branches. There's a couple other strategies you could apply here. And this one also, I think, is great to call out. Service accounts really shine when you're doing this type of integration, right? So all of the export, update, create calls that I just showed off here under the hood, they're being authenticated with stored credentials and secret management in GitHub repository, right? If you're using a service account, you only need to manage secrets for one account, and then all your collaborators in the solution can either have access to that service account, or they can be actually added as a collaborator to the solution itself and have access to the apps and pipelines that way, right? So it's a really strong pairing here. Highly recommend if you're building this type of integration, you explore service accounts. This to me is actually really the most important point of this entire demo, which is that the best process, the best SDLC is the one that you know. So if your company already has an SDLC process, either because you're paired with no code, low code, and traditional coding in different areas, or there's anything that you've got a versioning strategy for, you should follow that versioning strategy, right? We have built QBL and these APIs to bring Quickbase to your existing change management process, right? They're tools, they're building blocks. You can use them to integrate Quickbase with what you know, what you do. If you don't have a versioning strategy yet, you could consider picking this one up, but also you might not need ephemeral type environments. Maybe you're a team of one, it doesn't make sense. Or maybe you want to have an extra environment in between UAT and prod. You should think about what makes sense for your business, your project, and you should build a change management flow that accommodates those needs. And the QBL and these solution APIs exist to enable you to do that. All right, I think that is everything I wanted to talk about and show you here. Hopefully you found it interesting. Would love to hear what you, if you had any questions, what you liked, if you want to see more of this or not. But aside from that, I'll pass it back to Raina.
Thank you, Drew. That was a very exciting demo, but we want to wrap it up and move on to Q&A. So just finally, what are the most important things to take away from today? First of all, ALM remains our big priority. So we are really working on it and making sure we're building more and more features in there. Second, as you saw, there are already ways to do application lifecycle management in different ways. You can use the SLM app, you can use the really software development best practices approach. Anything that fits your organization is available, so you can definitely export that. And last but not least, governance features all around the platform are still a priority for us. So keep giving us your feedback. We are listening, and we are here to improve and to build any feature that's important for you. With this, I'll just close this session and start with the Q&A. So let's look at some questions from you, and hopefully we make things clearer.
All right.
Let's see a question.
See a bunch of questions around service accounts. So let's start with that topic. So the first question is from Cindy. We have a user called pipeline, so multiple people can access the organization pipelines. Can we just turn on service account for this profile? So actually, you're now using a service account, but the old way by sharing password, obviously. And we intentionally decided to implement service accounts in a way so you don't create a service account, but you actually convert an existing user. So what you have to do is simply convert from the admin console that specific account to a service account and provide with access the users that are supposed to operate with that service account. And that's it. Nothing else would be required. Another question on service accounts is if implementing from Worry, if implementing service accounts, do all existing pipelines have to be rebuilt in the service account? So there are two different scenarios. Either similar to the previous one, you already have a kind of a fake service account where you're sharing passwords across multiple people. So in that case, you just have to convert the service account. But if you don't have anything like this, and you have pipelines all over the place owned by different people, and you want to kind of consolidate this into one service account, then you have to kind of create a new user, convert that user to be a service account, and then eventually rebuild the pipeline. Another question is from Olivia. For existing pipelines owned by someone that is a part of a service account, what happens? Does everyone in the service account have access? Does the pipeline need to be remade by the service account? So pretty much my previous answer is valid for this, for all the questions here as well. So again, if you're using a user that acts as a service account, you just have to convert this user, and then everything else would remain the same, and you just have to provide access to the people who are supposed to operate on the behalf of the service account. But if random people are owning random pipelines and you want to consolidate, you have to kind of reorganize in one or another way, and probably you have to rebuild some of your pipelines. And I think we had one more question on service accounts in relation to subscriptions. So does the service account and the users added to the service account count toward the total user subscription count? I'm not sure I actually understand the question, but if the question is whether the service account is counted as a user, yes, as I mentioned, it's a normal user at the beginning that is converted to be a service account. If the question is related to subscriptions, the only email address that would receive the subscriptions is the email address attached to the service account. The users that are part of the service account, that have access to the service account, are not going to receive the subscription. So I'm not sure in which direction the question is going, but that's how I understand it. And Raina, I'm going to hand it over now to you to continue with ALM questions.
Awesome. Let's start with this one. Oh, what's good?
Sorry. I took over accidentally.
Okay. So this is a very good question. Somebody said, I wish Solution APIs was going to be available on more than just Enterprise after December 31st. Just FYI, right now, Solution APIs are an Enterprise plan feature. However, we have provided business account customers with a trial version. Basically, you can use the Solution APIs with certain limitations. Originally, we planned to run this trial by December 31st, but we actually are finding this a very successful thing. So we see a lot of interest from you. So we're going to extend that. So stay tuned on more news on that front, and we're going to share more about exactly what the next form of trial for Solution APIs for lower plans is going to be. Let's see, next question. So there is one about sandboxes. Will sandboxes be supported, developed, or will sandboxes be sunset? So Solution APIs and QBL are really just a next generation of sandbox in a way. So for example, if you're using the SLM app, as I said, the SLM app allows you to create the different environments, the development, the production, the testing environments. Basically, those environments are your sandboxes now. The difference is that they are live applications, live solutions, and you can manage users in there. You can have multiple users collaborating there, and you can have multi-tier setups with, as I said, development and testing and production, and you can have a lot more freedom basically. So Sandbox is evolving in a way. We don't have a plan to stop the old Sandbox features at the moment or anything like this, but we do believe that with Solution APIs, you can come up with a way more flexible setup that's better for your organization.
I actually want to add something real quick there, right? Sandboxes have a limitation in that they're only a single application. We've heard that is a painful limitation of sandboxes a lot, right? So solutions are going to work with multiple applications, multiple pipelines. So it's a very similar concept with a lot more flexibility and power.
Absolutely, yeah. Let's see this one. Have you tested exporting an app that is close to the limits of Quickbase app size? Now, this is a great question. We have tested with many very big apps, monsters of apps in some cases. And right now we haven't seen any limits that should be concerning. So basically, if an app is super big, that doesn't mean it's not going to export into QBL. There are some applications that have weird schema in there. Maybe it's a very old schema that was set up in a way that we don't no longer see as acceptable, or there is some small mistake in schema, which happens, by the way. Some of those apps are years old and very big and very, very complex. So schema has so many variations. Some applications may have issues when you export them, but when that happens, just contact tech support, and we want to hear about it and investigate and figure out what's wrong in there and help you. Let's see more questions. So there is a question, does the SDLC work backwards, create a copy application and make changes inside the application and then write those updates to the QBO and try those updates to the live application? So if I understand the question correctly, that's actually what we were trying to showcase with Drew's demo. Basically, you have your two solutions, the dev and the UAT and the production, actually three, and all of them are live. So you don't have a live one and non-live ones. They all exist at the same time, but what we want to do is help you, guide you to the, as Drew said, some of the best practices. Do all of your changes in the development solution. Then, using the SDLC, you can transfer those changes to UAT and then to production. But again, all the development happens in the solution, in the UI, just as you normally would. You don't have to code or something like this. So make your changes in just your development and then start transferring them with the help from SDLC. Hopefully that clears it up. Okay, more questions. This was voted. What if the field has business logic, a rich text field with a case statement and embedded it with user permissions? So that's an amazing question. QBL carries all of that business logic when you export it. So basically, when you go to your field, the rich text field, you can do a lot of configuration there in the settings of the field, right? All of that gets exported to the QBL, including the user permissions, so the row permissions. So you're going to see for every individual field or table or report all the permissions that are assigned to specific rows. And when you create a new environment or you're making changes between environment, all of those changes are going to also be seen in there and get transferred in there. So hopefully that helps you. And I think we are out of time for any more questions, but feel free to reach out to us any way you find convenient. We are here to help, to answer questions, and to support you in your ALM and governance journey. So keep giving us your feedback, and thank you very much for listening.
And please rate us. At the end of the session, you'll see the ability to rate us. Tell us how we did, whether you liked it or not. So your feedback is really welcome. And thank you.
Thank you. Bye.